Hey, you crazy mofos. The creak of the door and the sound of the steps mean one thing. This is Bill Johnson. Leatherface 2, Bubba, from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, and you are listening to the Timo and Harley Show. Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Timo and Harley Show.
Thank you for listening to the Timo and Harley Show. I am Timo. Over there is my partner in mind crime, Mr. Ben Harley. Say hello, Harley.
What is happening, people?
Ben Huggy Bear Harley.
That's me. Oh, Huggy Bear. Yeah.
Yes.
How you doing, Timo? You want a hug?
No, I'm okay. It's too early in the morning for a hug. That's just the way it is. But hello, Mr. Ben Harley, and hello, all you deep thinkers out there. So,
deep
106% of our audience, Mr. Ben Harley, are deep thinkers. Can you imagine that?
106%.
Yeah. It's science and math combined. That's what you get.
Yeah.
That's what you
and
get.
I'm not too good at either. So
there's so much positive and so much stuff there. It can't be contained within 100% of anything. So a couple things here real quick, Mr. Ben Harley. Wanted to remind everyone that March 28th in St. Louis, my band Fragile Porcelain Mice will be playing at the grand opening of Red Flag, the new club in St. Louis that our pal Mr. Bob Fancher is opening, who plays with me in Ultraman, my other band. And so that's going to be a good time. Wanted to send our...
It'll be an awesome time.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait for that. And then wanted to send our little condolences to friends and family of legendary actor Mr. Max von Sydow has passed away.
Yes.
And, of course, we know him from The Exorcist, and I think he actually put some hockey gear on in Strange Brew, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He
threw that one at you from nowhere, right?
Yeah. I did find a mouse in my beer, too, Tim, one time. So
Right. But he's great.
Oh, that was a good one, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. But Great Lake North.
Yes, he's great.
He is awesome. He's like one of those guys that, especially as a villain and with his voice, he just commanded the screen. One of those guys, one of those talents.
Well, coming up too in Ingmar Bergman films and then ending up in Strange Brew. I think it's a cool career. I really believe it's a cool career arc. Some people would say you're kind of slumming there, Max. It's like, he's making some money is what he's doing, But, I mean, The Virgin Spring, there's no better performance. I know everybody talks about The Exorcist, and yes, The Exorcist is very good, and he's only like 40 in that movie. That's what's very good about it.
He looks like 80 in it. Yeah.
Right. So Dick Smith did a real good job with the makeup, of course, but he walked like an 80-year-old in that movie. He really did a good job, and you believed it. You had no idea that he was a young guy. And so that was very cool, but I don't know. I still think Virgin Spring, when he goes up the hill and tears a tree out by its roots because he's pissed off. I mean, that's acting. That's pretty good, So, but kind of lost a giant. And just figuratively and literally. Kind of lost a giant there. And
it's a shame. And I was actually sitting at my desk the other day, and I had my little Alexa thing on. No, don't answer me, Alexa. And it came up on there, and I've had to pause for a minute because he's just, he is, and and you know what? There's probably a few people, I'm sure there is, Timo, that saw him in Strange Brew and became fans of him because of that.
Sure.
And so, I mean, like you said, what a great career, though. Spanned a lot of,
Did everything from that to then he was in Flash Gordon and
Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, so boy, I tell you,
I feel sorry about that.
I love Flash Gordon. That was great.
I love that. It's a silly movie.
It is.
I didn't know what to think of it when I was a kid. I really didn't. I was like, what is going on?
I thought it was
one of those that was just like weird.
It was weird, but you know me, I like weird. And I thought it was one of the coolest. It was one of my introductions to weird. And it was one of the coolest things I'd seen. I bet I saw that 3 times in the theater at least, if not more. Okay. My brother would take me and goes, it was like Swamp Thing. Me and him went and saw Swamp Thing over and over again. Little Wes Craven reference for you. We're gonna get back to Wes Craven here later in the show. But no, it was. I loved it, and I think that when you're an actor who's been in so many different situations and movies and stuff, you are truly. He's truly a character actor and a star. Yes. And that's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Just the fact of all the roles that he had and everything, and how he just morphed into one thing or the other. And he's a very distinctive looking person, but he could morph into a role to the point where you didn't recognize him anymore. You didn't realize that Emperor Ming was actually Father Marin. You had no idea it was the same guy. So, condolences to his friends and family. Yes, and I know the film world has lost a true artist, out of it. Yes. So, now we are, Mr. Ben Harley, last week we had part 1 of our interview with our good friend, Mr. Marc Diamond, the Fresh Prince of Darkness from the Dwarves.
Fresh Prince himself.
Yes. So this week we're going to talk about some Bigfoot. But first, last week, we talked about the Prophecy Blu-ray. We talked about guys in suits and movies and stuff. We talked about some King Kong Godzilla. Another thing that Mark has in common with us. Now, you had to be talking to me off air and said you wanted just to mention something that you had been watching Peter Jackson's King Kong.
And
it sounds like you're becoming a bigger fan of my versions of King Kong by watching Peter Jackson.
Tim, and I've tried. I was so excited about going to see King Kong when it came out, the Peter Jackson version. Though I was a little nervous because they really not kicked the 1971s in the ding-a-ling, but they didn't really. They kind of brushed that one under the rug because I don't know if you remember, they laid out like a huge red carpet for this guy, and they just talked about this movie before it came out, and
huge
how Peter Jackson, the reason he was in movies is because of King Kong, and oh my God, I don't know that I've ever seen, well, maybe a few times, but
there was a big build up to that movie. It was hyped to hell.
God, hyped, just with him, it was a love story of him in the film, man. You know what I mean? Like Peter Jackson in this movie and the monkey, and oh my God, it was just a little too much. So when I saw this film in the theater, I don't know. I don't know. Was it me? Because I do like the Lord of the Rings movies. I like The Hobbit. I like the Lord of the Rings. I like those movies because I can immerse myself into a gigantic universe. Now, do I live and die by those movies? No. Can I pass them up? Yes, I can. I don't need to. I mean, I liked them, the first couple of times I've seen them, and I'm good. But like this movie, I just couldn't stand. So anyways, Tim, the other day I really tried to go back and watch it again. Really, I tried to give it a honest to God,
good old college try.
Yeah, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Like, if you want to know what overindulgence or over the top or way too much, just watch the scene of the Tyrannosaurus Rex when he has to fight the 3 Tyrannosaurus Rexes, and still also keep what's her name, Naomi Watts, from getting eaten. There's about a 10-minute span in that movie that I just like. I saw, because I've only really watched the whole movie one time. I just couldn't, and so I saw a few things in this, and I'm just like, it's just so that it could have been a great movie. It really could have been, but it's about 8 hours long, and the CGI in that is just, I can only suspend disbelief so much, buddy. Now there's a part in the film where he's fighting the T-Rexes, and he's like throwing her from like one hand to the other while T-Rex is biting at him, and he catches her, and then or he throws her up, and then he's catching her with his feet, and then they brawl. I mean, it's just unbelievable stuff. I don't know how anybody can even swallow what's going on in this film. First off, it's just too much for me to take. I understand I'm watching a movie about giant monkey. Okay, I get it.
Right.
But it went, Tim, I think that there was a 15-minute span where she was in, first she almost got eaten by 2 alligator things, then the T-Rexes show up, and then the fight with King Kong, and then and this is not to mention all the other bullshit in this movie that you have to go through. That it's just like, it is, to me, that movie is the definition of too much. Too much. You have too much and you're doing too much. You took a great story and just turned it into this something that just, to me, I can't swallow anymore. And not to mention the damn love story between her and the ape. I understand. I would feel for King Kong too. And I did. I wept in the 70s King Kong. I don't like Gatling guns because of the 70s King Kong, because they shot him. And that it took me years to get over that as a kid, till my probably my early adulthood, because I just hated it. Now I understand and I feel for King Kong, but in this movie I don't feel it. Just doesn't make me feel much. They're skating on the ice rink and it's like, what are they, on a date? I just don't get it. I don't get it, and I don't want to get it. And that's my last attempt of watching that movie.
I think that's the homage to the 70s one, is the relationship between Kong and the girl. And the thing is that's the thing in the 70s one that sinks it. The rest of it is really cool to watch. It's very like engaging. But even at one point, she's like, I'm done. She understands, like, I don't think she wants to bang the monkey. And this one, I'm like, are you going to have sex with this monkey? Are you gonna? Are we having fish sex stuff, dude? God,
like, are we going?
None of it.
It's very uncomfortable, man. Yeah. It's so uncomfortable to me. But I don't know, man.
Okay. So no, I like last week, and this is tied directly to Marc Diamond's interview from last week, where he was talking about the newer King Kong and Godzilla movies, and giving his opinion about them. And it varied a little bit. He really did enjoy the Kong Island. I think sounded like that one was the one he enjoyed the most out of all of them. I've watched that a couple times now, and it's fun. It's a fun, and I can get it. And believe it or not, as much, and I've been thinking about that, as much as stuff has moved forward, it is tame. I mean, as far as as like computer generation and more stuff being computer generated, blah blah blah. It is tame compared to the Peter Jackson. Right.
It is like watching something from the 50s compared to the Peter Jackson one, because of all the just too much.
Right. I didn't like it a whole lot, but at the same time, I think I saw it kind of more as the child of the Japanese King Kong films, as opposed to the American one. The problem the problem I have with like Peter Jackson's King Kong is that there's a movie from, was it 1933 or so, called King Kong. Yeah. That's King Kong. Yeah. Okay, so every time we have another remake of King Kong, it's kind of like your Uncle Earl on Thanksgiving retelling the drunken story that keeps getting more and more fantastic. But it's still the same story. But they start indulging more in different, different little details that all of a sudden came up out of nowhere and stuff. And to the point where you're just like, all right, Uncle Earl, we know the story. That's kind of where I'm at with some of these. The 70s King Kong, I think, it's kitsch, and I think it seems like every time there's a new technique for special effects, they have to dredge up King Kong. So you had the stop motion, then you had the guy in the well-made suit. So you had that. Although he still walked like a person.
Baker.
Yes. Yeah. and then when you had CG, when it got to that point, then you could make another version of King Kong. So my problem lies more in the actual origin movie King Kong than it does with what I was just calling the child of the children of the Japanese movies and stuff. So and again, for me, it has more to do with I recognize things in these newer movies, just techniques that are used today and stuff that I don't enjoy. They're not aesthetically pleasing to me whatsoever. They take me out of the story, and I have a hard enough time as it is suspending any disbelief because of my love of movies and film, that I'm constantly looking for the techniques. I'm constantly looking for the effects. I'm constantly looking for the acting tricks and stuff. And so it's a challenge for a film in the first place to get me to immerse into it. And it's super hard when you get a movie like those, like the King Kongs and Godzillas and stuff. First of all, with the Godzillas, it's very, very hard because anything that's not a guy in a rubber suit, I'm not interested in. Yeah. I'm just not, and I've tried to be, but I just have to understand I'm not a giant Godzilla fan as much as I'm a giant fan of the movies from the 50s and 70s of Godzilla. Yeah. Those Gojira films are just, to me, are a lot of fun, and they're they're funny and they're silly and they're fun and there's destruction, but it's kind of like, it's sort of like an amped up version of you in your bedroom when you were like 8 and you were destroying cities on your floor with your toys and your guys and stuff, because it's kind of the same props.
How about when I'm 48?
I'm trying to be friendly here. I'm trying to be nice, But that's just what it is to me. And I don't think King Kong needs to be made again. I think the Kong Island it's fine. It's a fine extension of it. Did I love it? No. I didn't like a lot of the human drama in Kong Island. I didn't like Samuel L. Jackson standing there proud and while the whole forest is erupting around him. You've mentioned this in movies before too, though, where I don't like. There's some things it takes me out of it now.
Sure,
but that also still makes it a fun little movie. Yeah, and those are B movie tropes. I get it. That's fine. It's fine. So I'm okay with it. But yeah, Peter Jackson's and like you said, the 70s one was way too long, and that I think is. I'm still telling you, it's part of the homage of this one. Is that is the only part about that I think really slows it down are two things: the love story between Dwan, and Kong, which that from the 70s one, and the boat ride back. Yeah. And
there's a little, that's, some of that stuff, right? Where she falls into the,
And well, if you watch the 30s one, you don't see any of that, and it's a leaner film. But I've always told you, even in the original one, I'll always tell you this: I like it when he's on the island. When he goes back to New York, I mean, I like the train getting pulled apart. That's kind of cool. A little bit of the carnage is cool.
Yeah.
I just like the jungle setting. I like the mysterious, spooky setting with all the monsters in it and stuff. It's scarier to me. And then when it got to New York, it was more of a B movie to me.
Yeah.
A little bit. And,
well, I'll agree with you on that. And it's hard for me to and I think it's because of my age at the time. I'll never lose my love of that 70s King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
For some,
I do too. I watch it. Yeah, I watch it a lot. Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. Well, there's just certain things. I guess it was my age, and there's certain things of that movie that takes me out of. It's one of those films that takes me back or makes me have a certain feeling like Halloween and Jaws and certain.
I totally know what you're saying. I feel the same way because of my age. I was even littler when I saw King Kong, so it was King Kong to me. I discovered the original one later in books on my meals or books on wheels that would come to my grade school. And that's where I would get these big hardback books about old Universal horror films and where I learned about a lot of the silent films. I know the old stuff like Freaks and all that. I learned about those in books I was running or getting from the library when I was like 7. So I totally understand that. I still think though that these movies are served better as their own things. If you want to take the characters and do something different with them, that's fine. It's kind of like why the Halloween movies don't bother me that much. As long as it isn't Halloween. As long as it isn't a remake, it's like if you want to take the characters and make them into clowns, do whatever the hell you want to do. I got Halloween. But when you start confusing people, and then I had to defend it, like, I don't like Michael Myers Halloween. That was stupid. He was like 9 feet tall. Like, no. I'm talking about Halloween. I'm talking about Halloween too. No, not Halloween 2. No, I mean, I'm talking about Halloween also. Okay. Well, I'm talking about the 1978 Halloween. There was a Halloween in 1978. See, that's where everything falls apart. It's like defending Bigfoot when people have only seen Finding Bigfoot. Same thing. But I get you, buddy. I get you, and I'm with you I'm with you on the Peter Jackson. King Kong thing. It's overblown, way overblown. Well, I have very little hope or faith for any of these films, but it's still fun to discuss and debate with you and Mr. Marc Diamond about these things. And I know you guys like these a little bit more, and I think you guys actually have a love for the characters.
Yes,
more so than I have a love for that series of films in a way. But there's still this love nonetheless. So speaking of that, let's get to part 2 of our interview with Marc Diamond, the Fresh Prince of Darkness. And this week is what you've been waiting for. And I was a little buzzed last week on the social medias, and I just kept looking at like, nope, that's not this week. It's actually, we're going to talk some cryptozoology this week. So we're going to talk some Bigfoot and ask Mark's his thoughts on some of the things that we crap about. when it comes to the Bigfoot world and communities. Yeah, so let's get here to part 2 with our interview with Marc Diamond. Here we go.
Right.
Let's see, moving on now. You are a fellow Bigfoot enthusiast, like Harley and I. And so over the last, month or two on this show, we've been following a television program on Travel Channel. It was called Expedition Bigfoot. We were told to watch this by some mutual friends and said, hey, because we kind of complain a little bit about the ballyhoo of the Bigfoot stuff. We're more interested in the truth, the real meat and potatoes and stuff. We don't, for instance, in a nutshell, we did not like Finding Bigfoot. We just didn't like it. We thought it was silly. That's not what we wanted to see.
Bigfoot was a type of show that I would watch the first 5 minutes because I wanted to see the supposed evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then maybe you'd watch the last 5 minutes. The problem with that show is that, it's the same one every time. They go into the woods, they have their heat-seeking thing, whatever. But it's just, I heard a leaf crack. Well, clearly it's Bigfoot. It couldn't be anything else in a giant fucking forest that could step on something.
Right.
It's just, it's just always, you hear that? Oh, it's got to be Bigfoot. It's like, come on, man. You got to be a little more, you got to kind of meet me halfway here.
Right.
I haven't seen this one that you're talking about. I moved this summer, so I was gone a lot and moving.
Right.
Rehooking up the cable and whatever. So I haven't watched as much Bigfoot, but that's been my general problem. I like to see the evidence. I like to see the footage or whatever. And usually, all people like you and I, Ben, watch these things forever. You can usually tell in 2 seconds if it's something that could be real, complete bullshit. I like seeing that, but all these shows, the rest of the show is just always the same. They go in with the fluorescent sensor and, they have the conversation of no man could have a stride like that. It's just all kind of, by the numbers.
Right. Harley gets real irritable. His worst moment for Finding Bigfoot is when they had a whole show, or a whole season, I think, that they kept showing a big thing on a thermal. And they were all excited and they were leading up to this. And Harley to this day goes, and it was Cliff. It was Cliff. And he says that's when he was done. He goes, I was completely done with that show. For me, I got a kick out of when they thought they were hearing tree knocks for an entire episode and found out that it was a sump pump coming off of a hotel.
Right.
That one.
Again, that's the whole with that show. It's just, we know why people tune into that show, but you have to acknowledge that there are other animals out there.
Right.
There are other things that make noise. There are other things that give off heat. Not everything can be Bigfoot right away.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's kind of what we're getting to, because what's happened here is that, and we were talking a little bit before we started here, that both of us have moved to a more rustic setting. We'll put it that way. I am in a wooded area, like a kind of out in the outskirts woods, and you live on the side of a mountain now, right? Or on top of a mountain where you have a lot of wildlife.
I can still see downtown LA, from my street. But we moved up the hill, so to speak, and I get deer. When I go out to get the paper in the morning, I see deer in the street, and one night 2 bears walked in front of my car.
Now, are you sure they weren't Bigfoot? Because, you can mistake a bear for Bigfoot, right?
It was so exciting, because that's all I can think of. I'm coming around a corner and a big hairy thing goes across the road. And of course, I'm like, this is it. I never thought it was Bigfoot. I knew that it had to be a bear.
Right.
But that feeling of excitement, I go, that's what it must be like. That's what it has to be like, to these people who are seeing that thing run across the road.
Right.
I saw it run across the road. I slowed down. And then in my headlights, I saw another bear walking around.
Uh-huh.
But, to me, I go, this is probably what it feels like when you have a Bigfoot sighting. It happened very quick.
Right.
And then it just walked kind of slowly back off the road. But, that's obviously totally what I thought.
Right. Well, and that's what we've been kind of debating about that stuff, because that's one of the things. So, for instance, I told Harley, I said, I now call part of the evidence tree structure porn. Because where I live, there is no houses around me. It's just woods. So my neighbors are trees. And I'm telling you right now that my point of view on all of the evidence, besides 2 different things, or 3 different things, I should say. The Patterson-Gimlin footage, I still have a hard time with that because I can't explain that away. It looks like a guy in a suit But when you start doing those breakdowns where they start doing the measurements of the shoulders versus the arm length, you start realizing that might not be a guy. I mean, if it's a guy, who's the guy?
The thing, to me, what always stuck out about that the most is why would they make it a female?
Yeah, yep.
That to me is like, if it was fake, and yeah, there's lots of bits where it looks like a person wearing a suit, but it's just it'd be such an odd thing to say, hey, let's give it tits. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, why would you do this? It's going to be harder to do. It's, people, that's not what they're expecting. They're not going to look for it. I mean, I don't know. There's something about that just kind of says, hey, maybe that's real.
Well, I used to sell a poster of that picture, the famous picture with his arms out, and he's turning, or she's turning, I guess, towards you. And when you start looking at it more, you're like, I don't remember having webbed armpits and suits, like a web like you have in your armpit. Like it's moving its arm back, and it has one of those. Like it's sunk in. The armpit is sunk in. It's not hanging off the shoulder like a suit does. And I think there's little details like that people don't notice. They don't realize.
I mean, there's a lot in there that's interesting. And the main thing for me, too, is that I just don't believe that people can keep a secret. Mm-hmm. I just don't believe that they can. And if that was, and mind you, there's been people who've come out and said, oh, I made it. It was my buddy in the suit. But nobody can prove that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or who was it? Ray Wallace said, it was him who made all the footprints, which he did do a bunch of those. But I don't give people enough credit to keep their mouths shut. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. To me, the Patterson-Gimlin footage is still really, that's the one to beat. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and I've been challenged too. I've met Bob a couple times, Bob Gimlin. And I was always challenged beforehand. I was like, meet the guy and see if you think he's a liar. Well, take it from two guys here that have spent some time touring on the road. That's not going to, meeting the guy is not going to convince me he's a liar or not. That's got nothing to do with it. There's a lot of people out there that you're shocked that have screwed you over, right? I mean, that you can't believe. It isn't that. It's kind of what they did. People who don't know that story don't realize that there was more than one. That they were, I mean, if you were in their financial situation, would you fall off of a horse with a rented camera? I mean, exactly. If you were in their situation, would you have brought back the authorities and all those people afterwards? They brought people back. It wasn't like this just happened. But I have problems, and maybe it's just these television programs. What I've been telling Harley is that I don't think a Bigfoot researchers, I'm not sure how much their credibility is going to survive these television programs after you get a hold of editors and producers.
Yeah. Even the respected ones are, because they're always there. It's always the same people there. Mm-hmm. It can't be helping their credibility at this point.
So you live out now where, at least let's say you have more wildlife around you, correct?
Right.
And you have a lot of experience in audio. This is another thing that me and Harley talk about. He's a visual artist. I'm an audio guy. And I told Harley, I said, you can't go in the woods and hear anything and know what it is. I mean, you can hear a deer make the click noise, if you know what I'm talking about, the snort that nobody knows they make. Right. It sounds like a buzzer. That's their warning thing to other deer or whatever. It's like it's a sound they make, and it sounds like an insect almost. It's very loud. There's just a lot of noises animals make, and I always get a little like, how do you know what you're hearing, especially if you live in a city, or if you live? How do you? Because even me living out here, I'm not sure what I'm hearing 3/4 of the time. I'm pretty sure it isn't a Bigfoot, but I'm not so sure, and I haven't seen anything like that to begin with. And it gets me real irritable when people like have these far away recordings of roars and things and think, how do you know what that is? You're like,
it's because it's what they want it to be. I wanted those two bears that crossed in front of my car to be Bigfoot, but it wasn't. But there you go. You record a sound. It's something that you're interested in, and that has to be a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch vocalization. Clearly, that's tree smacking or whatever.
Right.
Like you said, there's a lot of things out in the woods, and a lot of those things make noise.
Right. Well, and then like with all the trees around me, that's all I got around me is trees. That's it. And so you want to talk? I have seen trees twisted. I have seen a tree. A healthy, big, thick tree in the midst of other trees gets snapped off about 15 feet high and just fall for no reason. Like, I have no idea how that happened. And tree structures, I got a turnkey in a ditch down there. You can move right in. There's a structure like right down it's just shit falls on each other. And I kept trying to, and not really tell Harley, because I think he's listening to what I'm saying, but trying to tell people, it's like, I think people need to spend a little more time understanding the environment, not just Bigfoot, but the environment that they're in, because, when a tree falls, it doesn't care where it's falling, and the odds of it hitting another tree in a woods are very high. Yeah. My whole thing is this. You seeing the bear is what I'm kind of leading up to. What really irritates me to no end is when someone approaches a Bigfoot witness. Like, let's say somebody says, I was walking through the woods, and something walked with 2 feet in broad daylight in front of me in the path, looked at me, went, huh, and walked off into the woods. And then somebody has the gall to say, you sure it wasn't a bear?
Right.
Now, you tell me, as someone who drives home, do you think you would mistake a bear for a Bigfoot if it walked right out in front of you, or would a bear be frightening enough?
Yeah, exactly. I'd be terrified. I was glad I was in my car when I saw the bear.
Yeah. So I get very frustrated with it. Is there anything that you find compelling, or anything that you disagree with on that? Or is there anything that you find compelling in the Bigfoot world when it comes to this?
I always think about the eyewitness accounts, a lot of them, obviously hunters are out in the woods. Most people aren't out in the woods. People who aren't woods people, if they're in the woods, they're generally on a trail around a lot of other people, which is noisy. I always think about what do people have to gain or to lose? And a lot of the sightings, when you read those books by like John Green and whatnot, are from cops. Cops in these rural towns driving, on their beat, driving, from town to town through these, roads at night, who have seen something. And they have nothing to gain except for ridicule and being laughed at, just becoming the laughing stock of the force, to say that they saw something. But, there's someone who has a reason to be out there driving around, and they have nothing to gain. There's nothing monetary. Why would they say it? Because it's not going to help them at work. Anytime someone is looking for something and they find it, obviously that's suspect. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a really interesting book that I read. It's a book called The Long Walk. Okay. And it was by a Russian guy named Slavomir Rakwitz.
Okay.
And it's a real story about a group of prisoners who escaped, from like a Russian work camp.
Oh, wow. A gulag or something?
Pardon?
A gulag or something?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like one of the gulags, like in Siberia. And the story's true. The guy was a real guy. And basically, it's a great book. And, it's just them basically walking through Russia, walking through Mongolia, starving, walking through China, finally getting to China, which was controlled by the British, and then, they were safe. And, the guy wrote this book. And at the time that he was writing it, nobody had coined, the term Bigfoot yet, or abominable snowman. And the book has nothing to do with them. The book is them getting out of this prison. It's the way that they survived. But it's a very interesting bit in the book where he talks about when they were, they had to basically walk, past the Himalayas, to getting through. And he talks about it. It's just one page. There's nothing to do with the plot or story of the book, where he says seeing a bunch of big, tall, hairy people down in a field. This is years before, what's his name? Swift went up there, or Edmund Hillary, or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the guy just says very matter-of-factly, I remember seeing sheep, and then there's that time we saw that family of tall furry things out in that meadow. He says it must have been somewhere around, Nepal.
Right.
And then, they finally get saved when they get, stuff like that. I always find very interesting.
Right.
When he wrote that book, I have it in my hand right now. I'm trying to look at the copyright on it. Yeah, they basically walked, halfway across Asia.
Yeah.
The first copyright was 1956.
Okay.
And he wrote it a number of years before that. And there's no mention of Yeti or abominable snowman. He just says, oh, yeah, then that one day we watched these furry people.
Is it just a very small piece of the book? Is it just like it just mentions it?
It's maybe half a page towards the end of the book when they're almost, to China, where they knew they'll run up with the British. But, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's hard for me to call thousands and thousands of people over hundreds, if not thousands of years, liars or stupid.
Right.
Maybe 80% of them I mean, you could take any population and take 80% probably in there. They might not be the sharpest knives in the drawer, but
now everybody's been exposed to it. You know, my mother knows. You know, everybody knows now that that's something that you could see in the woods. Of course, nobody's going to, but you know, it's a possibility. You know, this guy, you know, when he was doing this, he was just trying not to die. You know?
Right.
And the fact that he mentioned it is that he mentioned the other wildlife that they ran into. He says, like, yeah, I saw something that looked like big, hairy people somewhere between China and, you know, wherever. It's just, you know, this was before the term was coined, before anybody knew the term Yeti or any of that stuff.
Right.
So for that to make a little appearance in that book.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It's actually a really great book.
And it kind of like, that kind of lends to Harley, like where I'm the eyewitness kind of person. And I do agree with Harley with this, but it's one of the first thing he jumps at is the original peoples. The Native Americans for everywhere. It's like he goes, so they make these totem poles and they have every animal in the woods and that one fake one, right? They got the imagination for that one, that Bigfoot, right? Like he's being facetious, saying that, are you trying to tell me that they just created this and put it on all of their totem poles and they all did it independently of each other throughout the world? He's got a real good point, you know, that, yeah, how is that? And if it is a part of the human condition, I don't understand that either, because then why aren't we all seeing it? Why?
Right, sure.
You know, I think some people just, they kind of cling on to their beliefs and everything, and for some reason, they can't handle it if the world isn't exactly what they think it is. I was on an interview one time with I was doing a band interview on a podcast of all things. And somebody called in and knew who I was and said, ask him about Bigfoot. And boy, did everything just fall apart. Right. Like, I just started getting made fun of. I'm the Bigfoot guy. And of course, you're not prepared. You're not prepared at all for that. Like, I'm talking about gigs we're playing and stuff. And next thing you know, I'm defending myself around a group of people I've never met looking at me. They all give me the look. Like, oh boy, you're nuts, you know.
Exactly. I mean, you have nothing to gain from this. So that's when I look at people, you know, cops, people like that who just have nothing to gain. Why would they say they saw something?
Well, I started asking people, why is it in your self-interest so much for it not to exist? Why does it bother you so much? I go, so are you saying it's impossible? Like I say, well, I'm not saying that. I was like, well, I'm actually interested in it. And I've actually done a lot of research, and it doesn't help you.
I always had, like, you know, when I was a young person, teenager, I always had real shitty piece of shit cars that couldn't make it. Mm-hmm. When I was about 24 or 25, I finally got a car that ran. And the first thing that I did is that I just drove up north, and I drove to Willow Creek. Mm-hmm. I tried to get some friends to go with me, but none of them wanted to. Mm-hmm. You know, I stopped on the way to see my grandma in the Bay Area and stuff like that. But it was very cathartic for me to drive those roads that I had read about in all those books. Mm-hmm. I had a video camera, but I don't have a gun or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember, you know, by this point I've driven, now I'm like, you know, somewhere way up in near Eureka. You know, I'm by myself. I would just pull over sometimes, just kind of just walk into the woods a little bit. Never too far because I'm a pussy. But, and because probably because I'd seen prophecy when I was a kid. But I'd walk around, and I remember at one point saying to myself, am I doing this just because I think it's kitschy or funny? You know what I mean? I mean, this is a long drive. This is, 800 miles or whatever. And, the only thing that I bought for my trip was an air horn that they use at basketball games. Uh-huh. And I had that with me. And that's when I knew that I did really believe in it, because I figured if I did see something and it freaked me out, I'd hit the air horn and that would probably scare it away.
Right.
You know?
Right. Uh-huh.
So, I was out there. I didn't have a camera, I don't think. This was before cell phones and cameras, and I certainly didn't have a gun or a trap or anything. I just, I didn't think I was going to see anything.
Right.
But the fact that I had purchased an air horn, had it in my pocket just in case, that's what I like. Well, I guess, this, and it did. It meant something to me just to drive those roads. And, I remember when I got to Willow Creek, I tried to find, they rent little cabins out in the woods.
Yeah, that's what we stayed at one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, asking the guy, people can look at you, just tell them 1 second that, you're a city person. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just screamed out city person. I don't look like a woodsman or whatever. But I asked the guy, gave me the key. just kind of nonchalantly, hey, any Sasquatch sightings lately? Figuring that he'd give me a dirty look or think that I was making fun of him, or who are you, city boy, to be asking this? And he just said, "Oh no, not for a really long time. You have to go way deeper now."
Uh-huh.
And then he said, "We have some bears that come down and go through the trash every night," which of course scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
but he just very, very casual was like, "Oh no, it's too crowded now. Not for a long time." But
right.
I always thought that was interesting, his response. I think you could tell that I was sincere.
Yeah. Well, and I don't understand. Like, I think when you're there too, like, you have to appreciate that when you look at the landscape and you look at where you're at, it's not just Sasquatch. There's a lot of shit out there that anything could be out there.
I once read a statistic about planes that in America, in airplanes, not passenger planes, but like personal planes,
mm-hmm.
like little light aircraft and stuff. Yeah. There's hundreds of planes that have gone down that they've never found.
Right.
They've never found some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just the vastness of there was a guy here in LA who disappeared. I can't remember. He had something to do. I think he had been in the band Iron Butterfly. Then he became like a computer software guy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Anyways, he disappeared during the 80s.
Yeah.
And
I saw the story.
Out he drove his car off the side of the road on Topanga Canyon. Topanga Canyon is traveled by hundreds of thousands of people every day. It's one of the ways to get from the West Valley to the beach side.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge thoroughfare. Millions and millions of cars go by that. They didn't find his car until a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't in like the middle of the woods. This is just he went off of the road on Topanga Canyon at night. The car, eventually got covered with brush and whatever, and they didn't find it for like 30 years. So I mean, it's like the forest is big.
Yes,
there could be a lot of shit in there. And it takes a lot of hubris to think that we've seen everything. They discover, hundreds of new species of insect every year.
Mm.
But every couple of years, they discover like big crap. Like in Vietnam, remember like 8 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
They discovered a whole herd of like deer, big 100-pound mammals that they've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the world can hide things that we can't see. Yeah, well, I mean, gorillas were a myth until about, what was it, like 1910?
Mm-hmm.
So that gorillas were just a myth until, we really haven't seen a lot of things until pretty recently.
Right.
So,
Right.
The idea that you can just close the case on this, is, the one thing I remember that was disappointing as a Bigfoot enthusiast was when Mount St. Helens erupted.
Oh, we just talked about this in the show. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get the, because they found, if you ask any hunter, have you ever found a dead bear? They'll say no. You just don't say, well, if Bigfoot's real, why don't we find? You don't find dead bears. You know what I mean?
Right.
Animals, hide to die and whatever. When that volcano erupted, they did find dead bear and dead deer and all kinds of things. That probably would have been an interesting time to find something, but
right,
it didn't happen.
Well, if they didn't find anything, there is a conspiracy theory out there, and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I'm not. But it stands to reason they said, well, if a logger sees something, they ain't gonna say nothing. They don't want to get shut down for endangered species acts or anything like that, and they just don't want to get called crazy also. So it's like a two-headed sword basically there. Of course, if you have a corpse, I would think you'd be rich. So I would think you would do that. You would find something. But, Harley, it's funny. His brother used to tease him when he was little because when Mount St. Helens went up, his brother used to try to scare him, tell him that Bigfoots were coming our way. And that's what they used to say. They would say that if there's any Sasquatch, they'd be coming eastward, after that blew. And I do agree with you. That was a strange thing, and I know a lot of people were thinking that maybe that was going to rustle some up, but then again, is it the first time the Bigfoot species has seen an eruption? Maybe they knew about it a week before and left. Maybe they could sense something and they could smell sulfur coming up, and like, I'm out of here, we're done. Or they also migrate apparently, so maybe it was a bad time of year for them. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's a good point. It is an interesting point. Well, it's hard being the Bigfoot guy, right? It's not easy because people they don't understand when you're just interested in what people have seen. You're not crazy. You're just interested. And when you hear stuff that's pretty compelling and experience some things, it's hard to turn away from it.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
Yeah. So, well, Mark, thank you so much for spending some time with us here.
Thank you for having me back. Always a pleasure.
Very good. And we will definitely have you back on again. As always, you're a fun guest to have on. We don't have many guests anyway. So it's always fun to hear your take on things. But I think it's more interesting to hear another fan's take on stuff. And someone else who's interested in a lot of things that Harley and I are interested in.
Hey, it's fun for me because nobody at my house or in my band will talk to me about it.
Well, we kind of feel you there too, for sure. Is there anything else you got coming up with Dwarves, or anything you want to tell people about? A tour or anything? Or?
Oh, well, if you're in Spain in March, we're playing the Fuzz Fest, some festival in Spain.
All right.
I guess we'll be back over in Europe in the summer.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody,
we'll be around.
All right. Keep your eyes open. Dwarves are constantly playing on tour, much to Mark's chagrin sometimes, but they're on the road a lot. So keep your eyes peeled and go check them out. My friends came down to Atlanta and saw you guys, actually. Our buddies, Brian and Ellie, a couple filmmakers from down in Atlanta went down. I think you guys gave them a little shout out. Appreciate that. That was nice of you to do that. So, all right, Mark. Well, we will talk to you next time. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ben Harley.
Yeah, Marc Diamond.
Marc Diamond. And that's the third time Mark's been on the show, or fourth?
Yeah.
I can't remember, but
third, I think. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much again for coming on.
Thanks,
and I like
Mark,
having Mark coming back on because it is a little bit of a different voice. It's like when we have Danny Hicks on. Although when Danny Hicks comes on, he's not really critiquing movies as much as our sanity and making sure he's letting the audience know, yes, these two idiots are crazy. You shouldn't be listening to them, but hey, I'm here
now.
What
are you doing?
To interject some kind of coherence into the plot here. So, but
yes, sir.
And Mark, we'd like to have come on, because he's into a lot of the same things we're into. Yes, but he's not on the show every week. So where is he at mentally on this stuff? So it's good to have him on. Yeah, and thanks for coming on, and we'll have him back on for sure. Nice,
like you said, to hear a little different point of view on stuff, and hopefully we can get out to see the Dwarves play again too here soon. Hopefully they'll be around.
Yeah, hopefully get to open up for them again. Hopefully they'll come back through Red Flag. Hopefully that's where they need to come through. I already told Mark, you got to play Red Flag. So place is kind of big, and I know for a touring band you don't want to play in the bigger clubs, but I still got a feeling this is the place they're gonna play.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Well, thanks again, Mark. We'll have him back on the show again to keep us updated on his thoughts about King Kong and Godzilla and Bigfoot, because these subjects just keep going and going and going. So yes,
they do.
Good for us. Good material for us too. So
that's right. Yeah.
Let's get to our official
Bigfoot.
That's right. Let's get to our official little film for this week, Mr. Ben Harley. From 1977, we have the Wes Craven film The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
All right, let me get you out, movie guy, and give you a short storyline synopsis here for The Hills Have Eyes. All right, here we go.
Okay.
On the way to California, a family has a misfortune to have their car break down in an area closed to the public and inhabited by violent savages ready to attack.
Yes.
Okay.
They are ready to attack.
Wes Craven got the idea from the Sawyer or Sawney Bean family, I think they were called. They were, I think it was in England or Ireland in like the 1400s or 1500s or something like that. They were a feral family, and they would nab passersby and eat them. That's what they did. So that was their deal. And then, but the interesting thing is what the authorities, when they caught up to them, they basically did the same thing to them. They tortured the shit out of them and
ate them.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they ate them, but they came. I think by the time they were done with them, they weren't edible anymore.
Okay.
We'll put it that way. So nice little duality there, I think, is what Craven was going for. And if you look at Last House on the Left, if you can, and it is a remake of Virgin Spring, again, Max von Sydow. Yes. So there is a duality there too. There is the criminals, and then the revenge on the criminals. And okay, who started it? That's basically where we're at with this stuff. He started it, but you're both really doing violent things. So that's sort of the genesis, the crux for this film, the script, the idea of it, or whatever. Let's see here. So I'm sure anybody into horror, even people not into horror, have probably heard of this film. It's not as infamous as Last House on the Left necessarily, but I would say it's as famous.
Sure.
So it's not that it's easy to watch by any stretch of the imagination or anything.
Right.
But notably here we have, let's see, Dee Wallace as one of the family members, a daughter that's she's a baby that's going through, and she is a young and pretty Dee Wallace. I don't think there is young, middle-aged, or anything Dee Wallace that is not pretty. So I don't have to say that, but I want to say it because she's very pretty.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then another Harold Handsome Pants, Michael Berryman, in the film too. Michael Berryman as Pluto.
Handsome as the day is long.
Absolutely. And we love Michael Berryman. He's a very nice guy. Anybody who's ever been to a convention has talked to Michael. And you know what's crazy about him too is if you don't know, and if you go to conventions, you do know this, but talk about a photographic memory. Yeah. I mean, he remembers you.
Yes, he does.
You don't have to spend 3 days with him for him to remember you, and he remembers you. He gets something about you, and he remembers you. Very, very
jerk.
intelligent.
Maybe
very cool
this
guy.
guy's a jerk.
Yes.
Stay away from this guy.
Yeah, exactly. But very, very cool guy. Very nice guy. It's a family that goes out to the desert. Their car gets. They run over a shrub. I guess their car gets stuck on a shrub. Let's just put it that way. And they get menaced by a feral family.
Yes, they do.
Living out there and basically are cannibals.
Handsome cannibals.
Yes, very, very handsome cannibals. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That's about all I guess I can set the movie up for or whatever. Now,
okay.
You told me you hadn't seen this in a very, very long time.
Many moons.
Yes.
Demo.
So I thought, well, let's do it because it's a really well-known movie. We have not reviewed it before, and you hadn't seen it for so long. Angie really wanted to watch it, and it's not one that I like to go back and watch. Okay. So let's start there. What did you think about going back to it now after all these years? How many years has it been since you've seen it?
Oh, Tim, it's got to be 40 years, maybe.
Really?
It's, this is one that I watched, I think only one, maybe two times ever.
Right after it came out, basically?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just, it was a Showtime one.
You couldn't have seen it in theater. You were only 7 when it came out. Well, I saw it on Showtime. Okay.
This movie was one of those that really freaked me out. Me out as a kid. It did. It shocked me. I didn't really realize, that things could be like that. And plus too, the people scared me a lot more when I was a kid. They looked more menacing than they do watching it now. Right. And the only thing I really remember, Tim, from the movie are certain scenes, like certain flashes of things from this film as a kid. And they were shocking to me, and I still never forget them. So, and it's funny going back and watching them, like, and they still kind of held true. But I think I put this film way up on a pedestal that it didn't need to be put up on. All these years. I'm not trying to dog the movie, but it's almost like, all right, Tim, the giant spider invasion, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also, terrified the hell out of me as a kid.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. I got you.
Terrified me. Next time I saw that film was on Mystery Science 3000.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that same thing. I only remembered certain things that were flashes from this movie, or of that movie. So, man, going back and watching this, but it's not as silly as Giant Spider Invasion.
No.
Okay? Let's not get real goofy here.
Right.
But it held up to me about as good as Giant Spider Invasion. But I can't sugarcoat it, really. I just thought this movie kind of stunk. I've been wanting to watch it for a while. You and I have talked about this.
Sure.
But it was almost like pulling a splinter or something. I'm like, man, I got to get back at this. Get back in there, dig in, and watch this movie and forget about maybe because, I remember icky things from it. Well, I don't want to say this because I've watched a lot of stuff over the years that were 10 times more terrifying, scary, or shocking than this film. So it was kind of a drag in a way for me. I'm like, oh man, but then again, it's like, what do you want, Ben? What do you want? But I just think as a kid, these were some of the first images of certain things that happened. And I think this might have been the first movie I ever really saw a person getting attacked by a dog. And, and that part I remembered.
That was good.
When Michael Berryman's character gets attacked. And I always remember it was something about his foot. I was like, there's something about his foot that happened and it's freaked me out as a kid, like really shocked me. And it was because he gets his
tendon, his Achilles
tendon, ripped out. And I just remember that from the time I was a kid. Like I said, hadn't seen this movie in 40 years, but I remember him being attacked and something happened to him with his leg, and then him being, and I remember as a kid being freaked out because he was such a bad character, a monster of a character in the film, and then the dog got him. That freaked me out. That shocked me as a kid. And the dog got him good, you know what I mean? Right. So those are only certain things that I really remembered about the film, so it just was kind of a letdown. I don't remember, Tim, and I'm sorry, I know we're off track here, but I'm sorry, I don't really remember them talking as much. Like gargoyles. That's how gargoyles. Then watch it again. The gargoyles talked a lot more.
Right.
Or they talked. I was like, wait, what? I don't remember that.
Right.
The Gargoyles is another film I put way up there as a kid. That's
another desert horror film from around the same era, and I think it even has the same font in the beginning of it. I mean.
And I think, Timo, that's why, and you and I have talked about this recently, off air and a little on air, where I want to travel across the country. I want to take a drive, either or by train or take a drive. But I'm scared of the desert. I am. And it's because of movies like this, Gargoyles,
The Hitcher.
The Hitcher, the car, Duel.
Duel. Yep.
All these because of
nothing good's
like
happening in the desert, man. No. Nothing's good happening.
And I don't want to run out of gas in the desert and be picked up by Rutger Hauer or somebody. You know what I mean? Like, no,
you won't have a signal on your phone.
And that's a real fear of mine, and it's because of movies like this, and a lot of it, Chainsaw Massacre too. You know what I mean? Like but I'll have to put. As much as I didn't really enjoy this film going back and watching it, I still have to put this movie up, way up in my pantheon of films as a kid that terrified me and gave me certain fears later on in life. And this probably more than any of them because of the desert scene. You know what I'm saying? Being and the normal family being lost out in the desert and this happening to them. I'm like, this can't happen. Does this really happen? As a kid, that's what I was thinking. But I am sad to report back that I did not enjoy it that much. I don't think it's that good of a movie. And, I like Wes Craven. I do, and I think it's got its place in history. It does, man. Right. But I just don't enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it. I wasn't scared.
Wes Craven. Wes Craven's movies to me are like one punch movies. You watch them and that's it. And they're not. Let's say his early films. These are his early films, and they're not really good for repeated viewings, in my opinion. At least they're not fun. Yeah, and there's a couple of things about. Look, I've always said in this show, I'm not a fan of Wes Craven. I
appreciate him. We don't talk.
There's reasons for that, though. I mean, I can I know a little bit about him. Okay, and I do know that he never even saw a movie until he was like 19 because he had strict religious upbringing. And the only thing he ever really saw was a Disney film because they were safe. He wasn't even allowed to watch films. Yeah. And he started goofing on. He wanted to be a writer, and he started because he read books. He read lots and lots of books because he wasn't allowed to do anything else. So he did start fooling around with a camera. I think his stepdad or something like that. Had some kind of photography, or an uncle or something, had some kind of photography know-how and kind of helped him into it. And so he sort of dumbed into it. And they were, and the producers were the ones who brought these ideas about making scary movies to him. He's like, what's scary? I don't know how to make a scary movie. I don't know anything about scary movies. So it's kind of like, it's like a Forrest Gump of horror films. Like he just dumbed into it. And here they are. Now, I'm sorry, but you need to do more than to take characters
and put them in a situation,
and put them in the and then do awful things to them. And that to me is not storytelling. That's life. I don't need to see that shit, And when you start like raping and killing like moms and taking their babies away to eat and things like that, it's like it's not that it's like a scary movie to me. It's just kind of. I mean. The whole thing, like on this movie too, is
shock and terror, right, Timo? Shock and terror.
Yeah, it's like it's almost a shortcut to storytelling in a way, and it's just so difficult for me because when I saw this movie the first time, look, here's the thing: Last House on the Left and this movie to me are companion movies. And when you see them the first time, that's when you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah.
You're going to get something out of it. I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you are. You're going to get like, wow. First time you see like, oh man, oh geez, you know, when you see it. But then after that, why would you want to go back and watch it?
Right.
So ask yourself that question. Like, why would you want to go back and watch Last House on the Left? Why not just watch The Virgin Spring? There's just no pleasure. There's no pleasure. The reason you have archetypes...
The baby was the only one I liked in the film, too. Or the dog.
Yeah, they're not likable characters.
No.
And that's the thing, too. And I think Wes Craven's thing is that duality thing. No, I want good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's the thing, too. And I think if he made the family too... They were from, I think, Cleveland, Ohio. That's where they were from.
He had Ohio. Yeah, he had Ohio State.
Yep. And that's where he's from, I think. I'm pretty sure that's where Wes Craven's from. So there's all these like little things that are interesting and stuff, but just not a Craven guy. I mean, I'm just not. Yeah. I don't know if it's because he's not a movie guy or what, and he's not speaking my language. I can't figure it out. I don't want to. Last House on the Left, like, I don't want to watch a woman being raped forever.
Yeah, no.
It's you a pussy? No, I got better things to do with my time. I saw it once.
Yeah.
I saw it once. It was icky, and it was like, okay, that's fine. I mean, did it offend me? Fuck no. Nothing offends me. It's boring.
Yeah.
If you want to push my buttons forever and ever, my buttons get very numb. And I'm like, okay, fine, let's move on. I'd much rather watch Alien or something like that to me, which is, it's just, it puts you in a different world.
Oh, yeah, it does. It immerses you in a different world. Yeah.
And I do like, I like the desert setting of this. There's things I like about it. I don't like the movie, but it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
That's the way I see Hills Have Eyes. And it's kind of the same way as I see Last House on the Left. Actually, I kind of like Last House on the Left a little bit. I don't want to say better. I like the revenge part of it better. I think the revenge is a little like weak in this movie. I mean, I think it's a little goofy too.
Yeah, it's highly goofy. It's highly goofy. Yeah, well, it's funny too because the one of the main guys in the movie looks like my landlord would have looked probably in the 70s. It's hilarious, and I couldn't get past it. You know, God bless him. But he looks in. You know, so that was only. But yeah, you're right. Like, what threw me a lot of it too is just the prehistoric look of some of them too. I'm like, oh man, I don't think you would look that prehistoric out there. I just don't think. Oh, I just had to laugh at at some of that stuff a little bit. So that did take me out of it a little. Man.
Right.
Like the Hills Have Eyes people. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just did. It just. I don't know, buddy. I feel bad because I'm almost like I wish I wouldn't have watched it again. I do, and that sucks. And trust me, I ain't going to be going out and watching the remakes or anything. I'd rather watch this one again, And it's nothing. I had built this up in my mind for so long, and it was just kind of a letdown. Not that it's a bad movie to me. It's just not. It's just not my cup of tea. Really.
It's got a great title. Okay, that's the first thing. And it was supposed to be called Blood Relations. And Craven was like, it's got to be called Blood Relations. It's like, this is what I don't like about Wes Craven. The coolest thing about the movie is something he didn't want, which was the title.
Right.
Blood Relations? Are you kidding me? And the thing is, okay, so he made Last House on the Left, which it is what it is. So that's his first movie. All right, then he did this, Hills Have Eyes. Actually, he did an X-rated movie in 75. Okay. So we'll just ignore that. And then he did Hills Have Eyes, which is what it is. Then he did Deadly Blessing, which is another convoluted it's disjointed and then he did Swamp Thing, which is a lot of loads of fun. I think Swamp Thing is the one movie he did that was lots of fun. Lots of fun. And then he did Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Now, as I'm going through these movies, why is he Wes Craven? You see what I'm coming from? Carpenter comes out and makes these genius films. Yeah. Like when he starts, it's like, holy shit, gee whiz, I mean, and I would say that, I'd say that Wes Craven's arc was more a little bit like Cronenberg, where Cronenberg made these weird fucking grossy kind of movies. But Cronenberg went straight into strange, bizarre art films, more like David Lynch on some level, and I'm not a huge fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it's another one-punch movie. You watch it once, it's cool. Yeah. And then go back and try it again. It's like, no, and I don't like, you just said about the babbling, the characters talking, the villains in Hills Have Eyes talking. Just shut the fuck up, Freddy. Shut the fuck up. He looked kind of creepy, but man, once he started talking, it's Robert Englund. He's not even mildly frightening to me.
No.
Like at all. Not at all. You know, Michael Berryman, I don't want to see him staring at my windows at night. You know, it's like,
No,
I got it, you know. And he's a much nicer guy too, you know, but I don't want to see that, you know. But I think, again, it's very difficult because for what it is, The Hills Have Eyes, for an exploitation 70s drive-in shocker, it's seminal. It's good. It's competently made for sure for what they had to work with, which was nothing. I just don't like to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't like to watch it because the interesting parts are parts I just don't. I don't want. I've told you this before. Let's put it this way: I don't like seeing families getting torn apart.
No, me either.
Give me a bunch of goofy high school kids. I don't care. I mean, I don't want to see kids get killed either. But it's like, give me somebody else. Give me some like military guys out in the desert or something like that. Give me somebody who can defend themselves. Give me somebody who can.
Yeah.
That's to me is a little bit even wow. You know, you take a family and you put them in a stupid situation, and then you have another family eat them. It's like, okay, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, and it wasn't. You're right. It's not. When you've seen it once, it's not scary anymore.
Right.
And I don't mean scary, but you see it once, and it's the when you have a movie that just shocks and not a great script or story. Once you've gotten over the shocks, what do you got left?
Not much.
I mean, do you jump still at the end of Friday the 13th?
No.
Right.
No.
But you might watch.
It got me once.
Yeah, well, right.
It did.
You're right. You know, you did. But see, like that. The thing with that is that, but it's kind of a fun movie to watch in between the beginning and that little jump. I mean, it's got, and I'm not a big fan of the first Friday, but it's got good. It's okay. It's like a little giallo movie, basically.
Yeah.
You know, is what it is. This is just. But people being terrorized. I don't like people being terrorized very much. It's just not my kind of thing, you know.
It's not your cup of tea.
Not my cup of tea. But I don't know. Here's one thing too. I think this didn't help at all. I have the Image Blu-ray of this from Image, and this is the worst Blu-ray I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
I am 98% sure, which in my world is a certain thing. That this was just the Anchor Bay DVD transfer stuck on a Blu-ray and re-released.
Okay, wow.
It's not high def, and that was not. It was shot on 16 millimeter to begin with.
Okay,
and blown up to 35. So you already need to have something real nice to watch it on, or a real nice transfer, print, whatever you have, of it to begin with.
Yeah,
and it looks awful, just awful. Now Arrow put it back out, and I'm going to get the Arrow copy because I can't sit on this copy. There's just no way.
Okay.
Whether or not I love this movie or not, I am a collector, and I want to have this movie.
Yeah, no,
And it's like, this is awful. It is terrible. And so I'm telling people, fans of the film, which I know there's a lot of them, and I understand. It's fine. I understand. There is a whole section of the horror community, and I'm not disparaging them, that enjoy more of the torture porn movies and stuff like that. And I'm not, look, I like seeing, we all watch horror movies, people get knifed and tentacled and things like that. So I'm not judging them for this. I just want something different. The Kill to me is not as interesting as the rest of it.
Sure.
It's just not. I do like a little bit of neat special effects, but this movie doesn't have any neat special effects.
No. I feel bad because this one just, man, I don't want to kick it, but then again, I'm like, I just didn't like it, and that's okay, Ben. Right? It's okay.
No,
it's
look,
okay.
I think there's a difference between like movies, like for instance, When a Stranger Calls.
Yeah,
I don't get that at all. Like the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever, when Carol Kane's in the house and she's getting phone calls. Yeah, that's a great little. It's a good little I don't know. Alfred Hitchcock Presents a Twilight Zone. Thing. Right? Great. Just wonderful. But the rest of the movie, does anybody remember the rest of the movie? It's awful. Yeah. It's like a crime drama. It's just it's the killer getting picked on and pushed around for the whole fucking movie. It's awful.
Yeah.
Okay, like this movie though, it is what it is. I get it. I understand why people like it. It is for 1972, it's a balls to the wall horror film.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It really is. And
it freaked people out. It did.
I'm sorry, 77. What did I say? 72? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I don't want to think 72. But it's balls to the wall and intensity and terror.
Yes.
But to me, there's a difference between terror and horror.
Yeah.
There's a difference between knives and claws. And I'm more of a claw guy. I'm more of a horror guy. I'm more of a monster guy.
Me too.
Even when I kids my slashers, I want to be more monsters. And Freddy Krueger is very frustrating to me because he is kind of a monster. I just don't like him.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing with Freddy, and if there only been like one Nightmare on Elm Street, or I'd probably be into it a lot more. I did enjoy the first one. I really did, and I remember when I saw it in the theater, and the guy who told me about seeing it before I saw it, and being like, just wow, hanging on his every word about the movie. But yeah, it just after a while, it got to the point where it just took the fun took all the fear out of it. You know what I mean? And with all exactly. Just two, and so it was like, I could only hang on to that for so long too before I'm like, I think these movies are making fun of me.
Yep.
As a fan.
Like,
wait a second.
No, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. As a matter of fact, I think it's a one-punch thing. I think that when I saw Nightmare on Elm Street the first time, I thought it was really good too. I liked it.
Yeah.
I have a hard time going back and watching it because when you've seen it, you've seen it. And it's and Nightmare on Elm Street's a little more fun.
Yeah.
But it's almost pushing the fun. I don't really think Wes Craven really made a great film until Scream.
Yeah.
I think Scream
a lot,
was genius on so many levels. And I think
especially at the time that it came out too, because it was something different. It really was.
Yes.
It really was.
I think People Under the Stairs.
Oh.
I think that was okay. And that one actually grew on me more.
Yeah. I like about half of that movie a lot. The other half.
Yeah. Well, see that one.
It's good though. It's
right.
Good.
Well, I saw that one in theater. That's one of the Craven movies I saw in theater, and it definitely grew on me because when I saw it the first time, I didn't know what to think about it. I was like,
it's weird.
It is weird, but it's not real. I just didn't know. And then, and the Megadeth comes up from the basement at the end, and then you're like, what? Okay, But I think as time went on, I got into that one a little bit more because I really enjoy Everett McGill in it, the guy, the brother in the movie. I really enjoy Everett McGill running around in that.
I do too.
S&M outfit or whatever, the zipper in the mouth stuff. And
he's a great actor.
Yeah,
he's spooky.
Yes,
he's spooky.
Yes, but I do think that. I mean, here I'm gonna let me prove it to you. So we have Last House on the Left. Again, I think is a one punch movie. Hills Have Eyes. Again, one punch movie. He did Summer of Fear, which was a Linda Blair TV movie. He did Deadly Blessing again, which is convoluted and everything. Swamp Thing is fun as hell. As hell, I think, personally.
It is fun,
Invitation to Hell, which is another TV movie. Then he did Hills Have Eyes Part 2, which he was hired to do. Now, I remember really enjoying Hills Have Eyes Part 2. I'm going to have to go back and watch it again because the last time I watched it, I was shocked how horrible I thought it was. Then finally, after Hills Have Eyes Part 2, that's when you have Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have, let's see, Chiller, the TV movie, which was okay. That was all right. Then we have Deadly Friend, which nobody remembers.
No.
Which I thought was okay. It's when Christy Swanson was a robot.
Yeah.
So okay. Then we have Serpent in the Rainbow, which I hate. I hate that movie.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
It's okay, but it's another one of those you see it once,
Yeah, I hate it. Give me something to grab onto, for God's sake. Then we have Shocker, which I can't stand. It's terrible. Then we have People Under the Stairs, which has grown on me.
Yeah.
Then we have Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which I did find very interesting. But it's not really a horror movie as much.
No, but it was interesting. And it also was a different take,
Yes.
Something that was kind of... I could say I looked forward to, but I was like, no, that's not bad. I can get that.
It wasn't bad.
Watch it. I did watch it.
Right. It wasn't too bad. That one was okay. Then we had Vampire in Brooklyn. So as I'm reading these to you, I'm asking, why is Wes Craven? Then we had Scream, which was brilliant, which is great.
Yes.
And then Scream 2 and 3 and 4 sucked. Everything else sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, my opinion on all this is that I'm just not a Wes Craven guy. I don't...
Yeah.
I think Wes Craven was a guy who pushed the envelope very hard early in his career.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to shock. I think he wanted to do stuff, and he didn't know much about horror films. He didn't know much about movies.
Right. That's crazy.
I know. So, and the first movie he makes is a remake of The Virgin Spring.
Yeah.
Ingmar Bergman.
Funny. Yeah.
So you explain to me, I mean, I don't know, but it's always blown my mind. Now I know he's a guy that's made a lot of movies, so of course we know who he is. But I mean, Fred Olen Ray made a lot of movies too.
Yeah,
I mean, and he's not put up there with Wes Craven or anything. But so I mean, and look, here's the thing. I'm just kind of throwing this stuff out there.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out there. No. I am not a fan, and I don't like these movies. And although I do think that Hills Have Eyes is probably one of his better movies, I just don't like to watch it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I'm glad that we did. I am too. We watched it, got out of my system, and stuff like that. But I somewhat disappointed. I was, but what can you do? Won't be the first time I've been disappointed. Probably won't be the first time I've been will be disappointed today.
Right,
so.
Right. Well, I'm still angry about the Blu-ray quality. That's just a joke. I mean, that was a scam of anything, and I've had it for years and years and years. I never probably looked at it.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Oh, I mean, it's a waste.
That's a drag.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like $1 online. It's like $14 something. Do not, again, buy the Arrow one. I think that was a 4K remaster. But the Midnight Madness series, it says on the top, and it's put up by Image Entertainment. Do not buy it. Do not buy it. I don't care if you see it for $5. I don't care if you see it at a DVD Bob's Table and I'm selling it. Don't buy it off. It ain't worth it. It's not worth it. It's awful. It's terrible. It doesn't even. It looks like a DVD at best. So it's bad. But the movie itself. Listen, I'm gonna on Hills Have Eyes, but I'm doing this in a friendly manner, meaning I don't disregard people who like it. I get it, and I think that when it comes to these types of Wes Craven movies, it's very good. It's very spooky as far as like The Hills Having Eyes. What a great title. Still the greatest title of all time. The Hills Have Eyes. That's just brilliant, and I love it. Yep. And I love the idea of the eyes on the hills and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think that Michael Berryman his face on that is great and stuff. But the thing is, once you get into the movie, Michael Berryman's kind of more of a goof.
And exactly, and which you shouldn't be.
No, not really. And you're right about them talking too much. Mm-hmm. I don't think they should have had. But then again, I don't think a lot of villains should have speech. I just don't. I think it ruins it all. I think
it does.
They show their hand. I don't know. Then you have Mercury, who is the producer of the film, by the way, the guy on the top of the hill.
Was he really?
Yeah, who gets off by the dog, gets pushed off it. Yeah. I think Peter Locke, was his name. Yeah, that was the producer of the film. Was Mercury? Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know, Mr. Ben Harley, and it's sad, and I know it may upset probably some people here. This is right in our wheelhouse, right in the 70s and stuff. But you know, I don't like movies that are hard to look at. And Wes Craven made these movies they're just hard to look at. They're not pretty movies; they're ugly movies, and I don't like ugly movies to begin with. And it's what I have a hard time with the Grindhouse. Yeah, and this is like the ultimate type of Grindhouse movie. This is a huge Grindhouse type of film.
For sure.
But I'm going to give it a mild. If I don't think I've ever done that, and that's because I don't like watching it.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying. I don't like watching this movie. It gives me no joy at all.
And I can't really poop on it either, really. But I'm kind of like, ugh. Mm-hmm. I don't even really, I didn't like it, buddy. I didn't, and I can't say it was awful. But I just let down. So I guess I just get a real...
Same thing pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Really, like a mild understanding that...
Yeah.
I still think
if you... Right. But,
but Harley, I'm telling you, I mean, do you agree with me? If you know this movie already, there's no reason to go back and see it.
Right, exactly. No.
In my opinion. There's no reason to go back and... I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. So I don't know if I will rebuy the Blu-ray or not. I don't know if it's... I don't know because I don't want to watch it again. I am interested to see the sequel again because I did not like that last time I watched it, and I was shocked.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that too, maybe because I can't remember that much either.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I know there's fans of this movie. I know there's fans of this movie out there, and I don't want to. Sometimes I don't mind offending you. Sometimes I don't mind. I'm like, you're wrong. You're wrong. This one, it's not that. It's just not our thing.
No.
I don't know. This is
a little disappointed, my friend.
It's like French fries without salt.
It's just not the same.
No, it's not the same. So.
No.
All right, Mr. Ben Harley. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but I do know one thing. I do know that we're going to have another special guest.
Yes.
Another special guest. Yes.
Interview.
Next week, we are going to have part 1 of another part 2 interview with our good friend Betsy Baker.
Betsy Baker.
From Evil Dead. I know, that's an ugly movie. It's fun to watch, though.
Yeah.
Is Evil Dead. It's shot on 16.
Yeah,
it's kind of naughty looking. I mean, but it's fun to look at. It's fun to watch.
But it's fun.
Yeah. It is fun. Yeah.
It is.
So we're going to have Betsy Baker on the show next week. I'm going to talk to her about a little bit about Evil Dead and about her career and all that. So good times, good fun. So on our march to episode number 500.
500. Man, insanity.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So,
take that, internet.
Yeah, right. So, all right, all you deep thinkers. Until next week, stay spooky, and we'll talk to you then.
Keep it creepy, people.
You've been listening to the Timo and Harley Show, brought to you by ScreenPrintingFactory.com, your affordable one-stop solution to all your screen printing needs.